the organization that hosts the New Year this year and hopefully the next 4 years as well. Again, it's an honor and pleasure. Let me speak to you a little bit about the New Year. This year, we have guests from all over the world and the country, basically, France, Australia, China, Thailand, and also Laos. The celebration will take place 4 years, starting from December 28th, and you'll be receiving invitation. We hope to have each and all of you join us on the first day, on December 28th. And this year's theme is a little bit different. The first day, we will be having an international parade. The various community from Hispanic and others, Lao, Korean, many folks will be joining us because we are living in the, melting pot. We are one American here, so we are very proud of that. And but tonight specifically, I have brought some beautiful people here. I want to turn over to my dance coordinator, Rocky Wang, who will be speaking to you about what they are doing, etc. And then, so Rocky, please. And another person too, Meng Tao, is also a leader of the other team. So I'm going to turn the mic over to them to continue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tulu. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rocky Wang, and I am the dance director for the Fresno Hmong New Year at the Hmong Inc. this year. I will be coordinating the dance competition along with the dance entertainment at the Fresno Hmong New Year this year. This evening, I have brought in my students. I am actually a dance coach and dance instructor at Rex Studio. We are called Rocky's Resilience Rhythms. So we teach traditional Southeast Asian cultures, not just Hmong culture, but we also do traditional Southeast Asian entertainment such as Hmong, Thai, Lao, and then we're going to slowly get into the Chinese and Vietnamese routines as well. Tonight, the girls that I brought, they are so young. They're only ages 7 years old to 11. They've been practicing all summer long. Tonight, they will be performing a song called No Bei Jiao, basically translates to Happy Hmong New Year, since we are in the season of Hmong New Year today. All right, ladies, are you girls ready to perform? All right, come on, let's get up and let's line up. Go up there. Get into position. Go to position. Their group name is called Ncai Yao Yu Yang. Basically, simply translates to girls that just want to get up and groove and, move to the rhythm and just dance. Girls, you guys ready? Hand on your shoulders. All right, and they are ready for music. Thank you. Hey, girls, ready?
Hãy
Vistaprint, we can get your brand into your customers' hands, or their heads, or their backs, or hands. Hands are good. And just about anywhere else your customers can remember you. Discover the printabilities
Good job, ladies.
at Vistaprint.com.
Take your seat now, okay? We do have another team that are joining us tonight. I would like to invite him over.
Hey, good evening, Mayor, Council Member, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to come out here tonight. Thank you for your support. We are very happy and proud to be here tonight. My name is Meng Tao. I'm here on behalf of HCAP, which is Hmong Culture, Arts, and Preservation. We also have a group of young girls, age 7 to 11, just as the group before. We are excited to persevere our culture as we are first generation, especially myself, along with my spouse and my colleagues here, first generation to preserve our culture and to be incorporated into the American culture. So we are very proud and happy to be here tonight. So at this time, I would like to ask my group here to come up here and we'll get ready to line up. Ladies, if you guys are ready. Ready.
into your
Come on, let's see what you got. Sure.
Come on, we'll take a picture together with dance groups.
Watch out for there's a step though.
Well, thank you again very much for having us tonight. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Mayor Pro Tem Wanatua.
Nhớ rằng tôi tận ra chân này chỉ mấy chỉ cho mình nhiều tôi lu founder Pesha Dr. Tulu. Thank you so much for bringing everyone here this evening, and please plan for the mayor, myself, and pretty much hopefully the rest of the council on Thursday, December 28th, for us to join you in the opening ceremonies and the parade and to be there. So, yeah, please save 5 seats for us, and potentially our spouses, too, so 10 seats. Yeah. And not only that, during the New Year, our city has been there with PD, was there, and we sponsored the New Year the last several years, and so just to let the community know, we've been a big part of Hmong New Year, and so we continue to want to be as well. So thank you, Dr. Tulu, for your work on it. Okay. For all the kids, thank you for coming tonight. Okay.
Thank you. What he said. But thank you for coming, and to the parents and grandparents who brought them here. All of these little people require an adult. So thank you for being here, and it was delightful. We meet every Monday night, so no, I'm just kidding. Thank you all for being here. Thanks, girls. See you soon. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming.
I've got the packet up on my phone. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. It'd be easier to look at the packet that way. Okay.
All right, that was delightful. Is there other public comment? Looks like it. Do you dance? No dancing.
No dance.
But you play soccer, I bet. Nice. Or you do Legos. Oh, okay. I saw Fuego, and I'm like, well, maybe soccer. Welcome. Yeah?
I'm going to let the team tell us who we are and what we're doing, but we want to give them an opportunity to express themselves and present before an official body here. We appreciate this opportunity.
Of course. Wonderful.
So we are students from Alta Sierra Intermediate. We are involved in the first LEGO League Challenge, and part of that, and our team, it's a robotics team, and then our team name is Lego and Fuego, And as part of our challenge, we had to make an innovation project, and we would like to share it with you. So here it is.
And part of the innovation project is that we had to identify a problem and figure out how to solve it. So can Hunter tell us about our problem that we decided to identify?
So we've kind of noticed that like cities, like a lot of cities have been starting to get like kind of less, kind of just more boring-ish.
You're not, we agree with you.
So, and also, we were just saying it actually, there's some proof on it where like 60% of items on the market only like 15% used to be like black and white, but now it's like 60%. So a lot of color has been changed. So we would just like to make a difference.
Yeah, and to solve this problem, we decided to come up with the Colorful World Initiative, which can Aiden tell us more about the Colorful World Initiative, aka CWI?
The Colorful World Initiative turns cities like this into cities like that. The Colorful World Initiative is an organization that spreads the word on how how we can fix boring cities. And
you could elect less boring people, but no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's a network that includes cities that want to make a difference to the world. We're an organization of
and how we do this is that we give suggestions to cities, like how we're like meeting up right now. And some of the suggestions can be, Daniel, can you tell us what we would suggest?
Some of these suggestions are building its bones and tunnels, Tokyo, Japan that has posters that glow in the dark. and the flower drawing on the wall, I think I forgot, but I think it's for the local, I think. And the government allowed them to do that beautiful, cool-looking art.
Yeah, and how would we make sure that the cities don't just stay that way once the art is done? How do we make sure it's more seasonal and ever-changing? Janina?
Cities can be more seasonal. They can have more seasonal events or different events based on different holidays. And they could have paint that changes every single season.
And how do we keep the environment in check? How do we make sure we don't like go really crazy? Kaden?
So we want more buildings to have more color and to be healthy for the environment. So for example, a building, it has a lot of color and bushes, but it is healthy for the environment.
Yeah, and these healthy environments is good for our psychology. So can Josiah explain the psychological impact that this Colorful World initiative might have on us?
The worse the buildings up here, the more negative impact it has on our psyche. In fact, the cities that have more abandoned buildings, more graffiti on the walls, and more broken windows also have the highest crime rates. To help put this in perspective, we can look at the broken window theory. This theory states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder create an urban environment that encourages further crime and disorder. Actually, we can see this theory in the broken window theory. Not only this theory states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder create an urban environment that encourages further and disorder, crime.
Yeah, so the opposite is also true, how further, if we make cities more colorful and inspiring, it can also encourage further color and inspiration. And that pretty much wraps up the Colorful World Initiative, which is sets out to help better our brains and fix the world and bring more color into it.
Well, the world sure needs fixing, so your timing is great. So thank you all for your presentation. So can we ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah.
So how could Clovis be more colorful? Have you thought of any ideas there?
Well, we could go back to our seasonal idea and just decorate more for the seasons.
Okay, nice.
And maybe like allow more creativity to go into like city planning, perhaps.
After this presentation, do you want to keep working on this project in Clovis, or is this the kind of culmination of the work, Dad, Coach?
We'd like to see them if they're inspired by the idea, we're encouraging them to reach out to other schools and to create a network that would expand and potentially into other counties in California, other states, and even worldwide, to really kind of shed light on the fact that we need color, we need artistic inspiration, and we need a child's perspective to city planning as well.
So I was over at the coast a few weeks ago, and in this little town, they had pickets from a picket fence that kids painted, and they were all over the town, and they had messages about peace and kindness, and I thought, oh, and I think they take them down and change them. So what if you wanted to talk more, I'm going to volunteer our city planning team to sit down with you. If you'd like to come in after school or during school, okay, not during school, after school, I bet our planners would sit down with you for an hour or so, and they could show you some pictures of Clovis, or you could show us where you think you could add color to our city if you want to start here. So we'd love to invite you to do that if you think that would be fun. You don't have to talk on a microphone or anything. You could just meet with them in a conference room. Our planning director is right there, Renee, wave. So she and her team would love to do that if you'd like to talk about this further.
They're the ones who suggested us that we talk to you guys, so thank you very much.
Well, there you go. So I'm going to send them back. That's what you do. But we'd love to see what ideas that you might come up with. You'd also be interested to know that in Clovis we have a rule. Do you notice that there's not a lot of graffiti around Clovis? Because we also believe in the broken window theory. So Clovis has a rule that graffiti on a building has to be gone in 72 hours. I think that's 3 days. Or we take it down for them. We paint it over them and send them a bill. Because we think that if you leave it up, what happens? Someone just comes along and writes some other message that no one can read or understand. So we think that's exactly right. So if you would like to work with our team, I bet you they'd take you on and see what kind of color you come up with in our community. Thank you all for being here. Drew?
And if you're interested,
Item number 8 on our agenda tonight is the update of the city civic center landscaping. You can pull it up on the website, take a look at it, give us your input. You know, if there's things we could do to kind of go with your inspiration, maybe there's something we can do.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. And sorry I got confused with fuego as in soccer. Sorry. All I saw was fuego. I'm like, wait, what? I didn't see Lego. Sorry. So, but thank you all for being here. But we hope that you'll have a little time with our planning team and come back with 4 or 5 ideas where Clovis could be more colorful. Nothing like starting right here at home. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your feedback.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. You all did a great job. How many of you have ever, this is the first time you've ever talked in a microphone? Yeah? It's kind of nerve-wracking. Have you ever done it before? It's kind of nerve-wracking. Yeah, you got to start somewhere. You did a great job. So thank you for being here, and to the coaches, thanks for bringing them down here. Yeah, you bet. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Do you want a picture with us before you go, team? Dad, you want a picture with us? Because it's really priceless. Please take a picture. It was his idea. Please. Well, this has just been a pretty fun meeting so far. We're going to call it off. No, sit down. You're going to ruin the fun. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Is there other public comment, Mr. Gibson? Do you have public comment? I was kidding. I was kidding.
Hi again.
Hello.
I'm Malcolm Gibson, 2776 Pontiac Avenue, Clovis. My wife of almost 52 years, Joyce, and I retired to Clovis 6 years ago to a house we built, we can well afford, and we love. I want to address affordable housing and the need for this city to take more aggressive action. This issue is important to me for at least 2 big reasons. First, I am a product of subsidized public housing. Secondly, without it, I likely would not have been able to accomplish what I have done in my life, which to some could be an example of what it can provide to a community. I've been a lifelong journalist, executive editor at 3 very good newspapers, 2 under the New York Times umbrella, as well as the largest independent newspaper in Uganda. I also was a member of the faculty of one of the nation's top journalism schools, and where my wife and I have established scholarships for students to study abroad, to expose students to diversity, something we embrace. All from a kid from that affordable housing scheme in Norfolk, Virginia. I don't think it would have happened otherwise. Now, I'd like to talk about diversity. It's something each of you has indicated you embrace faithfully as part of the Clovis way of life. We can agree that diversity enhances a community. Diversity does not detract or diminish one. But diversity means many things. We have ethnic and racial diversity, whose different cultural perspectives and life experiences certainly enhance any community. But economic diversity is another, and just as important to have the attention and support of a community because of the benefits it can bring too. Those benefiting from affordable housing does not indicate being less, other than how much money comes into and is available to a household. In my career, I've had the good fortune to hobnob with the highest. I've dined with and interviewed presidents here and abroad. But my time growing up in public housing proved something to me that I've carried through life. the amount of money in a household did not and does not translate into the quality of the folks in that household when it comes to parenting, family, beliefs, ethics, love, and ways in which they can make the community better. My family didn't have much money growing up, having to get assistance to put food on the table a few times, enough to buy a can of Spam for dinner. And yes, that's true. Though I must admit, as a kid, I didn't mind that. Spam for dinner? Great, Mom. I loved Spam and still do. But we, as most of my friends, had wonderful parents and stable households, in great part because of affordable housing. Having a livable, safe place to go is important to everyone. In my experience, virtually all of those who came out of there went on to wonderful, productive lives: craftsmen, soldiers, sailors, teachers, parents, and more. My best friend is a surgeon, finally retired, as am I. In the coming meetings, I'm going to address the issue in greater detail, providing details on why affordable housing, when done right, as it was in my time in Merrimack Park, allows diversity in a broader sense, a diversity that benefits the community and society much the same as ethnic and racial diversity. Finally, I leave you with this. Many people may not think me religious in the traditional sense because I embrace many beliefs. However, there is one important truth. For my entire life, since early childhood, I have done my best, but fallen short, as we all have, to walk in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. In virtually all I have done in my life, I have asked, what would Jesus do? I have come to know that many, if not all of you, who sit on this council are firm in your belief. If that is true, I would urge you, when it comes to this issue, whether in public session or when you retire behind closed doors to discuss the lawsuit, to ask the same question when this issue comes before you. What would Jesus do? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Any other public comment here in the chamber tonight? Online? We did receive one piece of correspondence from Stephen Trevino, and I've asked Drew to read it out loud. It's very short, and it's very poignant and a really good reminder of part of what makes Clovis Clovis. So, Drew, do you want to read that out loud?
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Trevino sent an email, said this weekend we all observe Veterans Day. In that case, I wanted to share a story with all of you. I live on Bullard Avenue. For the most part of my driving life, I have driven down 5th Street going west just past Sunnyside. On the left side of the street was the residence of Private Andrew Reese, who was killed in action in Vietnam. For as long as I can remember, I would see his father raise the flag early in the morning and bring it down in the evening. It had been, this was a long-going thing until recently. While most of you may have wondered why I would relate this to you, I believe that it is part of our heritage and our legacy. I do not know him personally, but I know who his family was. I hope this provokes a little thought for today. Signed, Stephen Trevino. I'd like to thank Mr. Trevino for sending this email. The Reese family were personal friends of my in-laws. Andy, my in-laws knew Andy from when he was a small child, and he was killed in 1968. This December 16th, there's at 8:30 in the morning, there's a Wreaths Across America ceremony at the Clovis Cemetery. Through donations, we get wreaths, and we place them on the graves of all veterans. You'd be surprised the number of veterans that are there. There are people there from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and unfortunately, people that I've known who were killed in the Gulf Wars. It's a great ceremony to go there, and it's nice to see how people gather to honor people. Steve, if you're listening, every year I go to Andy's grave and I put a remembrance on his grave for my in-laws. I would put the invitation out to all of you to join us on the 16th, and they do take, you can sponsor Reese at Reese Across America / Clovis Cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you so much, and thank you to Mr. Trevino for his comments as well. Anything else? Public comment?
Mayor, if I may, there's one comment online.
Sure.
Sergio, go ahead.
Hello?
Sergio, you're on. Yes.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Sergio Romo. My address is 1630 Gibson Avenue. I live about a block east of where you are now. I'd be there, but I'm babysitting granddaughters. So, but Mayor, we last spoke the last meeting of September. I'm calling in regards to the commercial vehicle parking. You had requested that Andy or Dave over at the police department kind of reach out and see what we could work out. And I haven't heard anything back. So I was just wondering if maybe you had heard anything. I had also sent you a couple of emails with some documentation, some paperwork, kind of just to give you an idea what other cities are doing in regards to this matter. And I haven't heard back, so I was just wondering where we are on that matter.
Thank you for the follow-up, and I apologize. My city email and I have irreconcilable differences, so it doesn't get checked as often as it should. So I apologize for that. I do know that staff has worked on it. So do you want to comment, or do you want to comment offline to Sergio? Can you reach out to him tomorrow, or?
Yeah, I'll reach out to Sergio. I apologize as well. We had conducted an analysis and looked at the issue and wrapped that up last week, and I haven't been able to get a call back to him.
So, Sergio, assuming we have your contact information, Andy will reach out to you tomorrow. Is that okay?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, just trying to get some resolution, some help on this issue. So, yeah.
Sorry, I'll try to get along with my computer a little more effectively. That's not working very well. But
no problem.
But Andy will reach out to you tomorrow. And thank you for calling back in. I appreciate that.
Okay, I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Yep, you bet. Thanks so much. Back to those grandkids. Thank you so much. Anybody else? All right. Ordinances and resolutions. With respect to the approval of resolutions and ordinances, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution or ordinance. And unless there is a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading shall be deemed waived by unanimous consent of the council. Next item is the consent calendar. These items are routine in nature. They're placed on the consent calendar and acted on as one item unless someone from the council or the public wishes to remove an item from the consent calendar. Anyone from the council wishing to remove any of the consent items number 1 through 5? Anybody in the audience wishing to speak directly to items 1 through 5 on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
A motion to approve consent calendar items 1 through 5.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the consent calendar? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Under public hearings tonight, there is just one. This is to consider various items associated with updating the city's active transportation plan, affectionately known as ATP. How many times will you say ATP tonight? A lot. Active transportation plan. A is a request to approve an environmental finding of a negative declaration for the City of Clovis Active Transportation Plan update, and B is the request to approve the City of Clovis Active Transportation Plan update. And with that, list two names here, Tatiana Partain and Ryan Burnett, and somebody else that didn't get named. Who's that?
We'll formally introduce our consultant, Carrie, who's here from Tool Engineering, or Tool Design Group. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Tatiana Partain, and to my immediate right is Ryan Burnett. We are members of the Planning and Development Services team, particularly under engineering, and we're here to present the Clovis Active Transportation Update. This is an update to the 2016 plan that is currently in place. This plan sets a vision and provides framework for the planning of walking and bicycling within Clovis for both transportation and recreational purposes. It's a guide documentation for implementation of various projects, programs, and policies. It basically supplements the general plan and serves as further guidance in regards to the city's multimodal transportation network. An active transportation plan is required under Measure C. It services as our bicycle master plan, and that is a requirement. It also allows us to seek out further funding, federal, state, and regional, in regards to these particular projects. The process for the update of this documentation was extensive and included robust public engagement and coordination with city departments, other public agencies, outside stakeholders, as well as other special interest groups. Before I pass the presentation over to our consultant, she will be giving the brief presentation. I would like to address the comments that were handed out today to you. They were received last minute. They were not received prior to the finalization of the plan. One is from the County of Fresno. It's very routine in nature. Nothing needs to be really addressed. But the other is from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. It goes into actual discussion in regards to the environmental work that will have to be conducted should we move forward on any of the projects that are highlighted within the document. But just a reminder, tonight staff is just asking council for the approval of the environmental finding as well as the plan itself, nothing in regards to specific construction-related projects. So with that, I will pass the mic over to the far right and to Carrie Asklar. She is from Tool Design Group. She is in from Portland, Oregon, and she will give a brief presentation. Afterwards, both her and staff are available for questions.
Thank you. And welcome, Carrie. Sorry, I didn't recognize. I'm like, oh no, where does she work? Where does she work? So welcome.
Thank you very much. I believe we do have a short presentation for you.
You're going to need to talk a little closer to the microphone because you have a very soft voice, I can tell.
Yes. How is this?
Better. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Tatiana. Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors, staff, and members of the public. My name is Carrie Asklar, and I'm a multimodal transportation planner at Tool Design, a nationally recognized planning and engineering transportation firm. We unfortunately don't have a dance for you tonight, but we do have a short presentation.
It's not too late to make one up while you're here. Active, get it, come on, do something.
But during this short presentation, I'll provide an overview of this active transportation plan and a few of these items that you see on the screen. First off, I'd like to touch on how this plan was created. This planning process began in the spring of 2021 and went through 4 general phases. During phase 1, we assessed the existing conditions by reviewing and analyzing what types of walking and biking facilities are on the ground today. During phase 2, we drafted the network of bike facilities and identified locations to improve sidewalk connectivity. We also identified supportive walking and biking programs. In phase 3, we refined the network and focused on strategies to implement this work. And lastly, during phase 4, we assembled content, continued to refine the network, and sought public feedback on the plan. However, as Tatiana mentioned, the program team engaged with community members throughout these phases, as you'll see in the bottom row of this screen. We held discussion groups, presented to communities, and held an online survey and map for feedback. All this to say, this plan was developed in conjunction with the public. So diving a bit more into this planning document. This document includes a review of previous plans that included past planning decisions related to walking and biking, a vision and set of goals to guide the process and the future of active transportation in Clovis, a summary of the roadway conditions today, recommendations on how to build out a bicycling network and where to invest the sidewalk network, program recommendations to support walking and bicycling, and a strategy on how to implement all of this. We started by looking back at previous plans to see what worked, what didn't, and how this plan relates to other jurisdictions' active transportation planning efforts. After looking back and with community input, we crafted this vision statement: a city with a complete and connected network of trails, walkways, and bikeways that provides convenient and intuitive connections to key destinations and supports travel within and between neighborhoods. The network improves quality of life by encouraging walking and bicycling for transportation and recreation. I should note that while this plan focuses primarily on walking and bicycling, it can set the stage to address other emerging transportation issues such as e-bikes and e-scooters. Many cities are currently navigating these issues through specific policies and educational programs as well as enforcement. Based on that vision, we created these 5 goals: safety and comfort, connectivity, equity, recreation, and mode shift. Moving on to the recommendations within the plan, this map on the right shows the existing bikeways as solid lines and proposed bikeways as dashed lines. The recommended network of bicycle facilities in this plan would more than double the current network of bicycle facilities. The focus of this network is connectivity in the short term, with opportunities to refine it in the long term. Currently, there are a handful of bicycle facility types, namely the Class 2 bike lane that you see in the center. However, this plan includes 2 new facility types for Clovis, bike routes that you see on the left and buffer bike lanes on the right. However, these facility types can change over time. In the future, there may be more buffered bike lanes or separated bike lanes to improve the comfort of the network, depending on staff evaluation. This image on the screen shows an example of how a Class 2 buffered bike lane can evolve into a Class 4 separated bike lane. Decisions on where and how to change a bike facility will depend on a future methodology of thoughtful criteria that may include a number of factors such as the number and severity of crashes, vehicle speeds, connections to existing facilities, and other criteria that will be determined in the future. Moving on to walking facilities, this map on the right here shows existing sidewalks in black and sidewalk gaps in red. This plan includes recommended sidewalk infill projects to improve walking connectivity. And lastly, this map on the right here shows the existing trails and paseos in solid lines again, and proposed facilities as dashed lines. This plan includes recommended trail and paseo projects to enhance and expand off-street connections within and beyond neighborhoods. Along with infrastructure-based recommendations, the plan includes programs to support safe travel behavior and provide amenities that make it easier and more comfortable for people to walk and bike. These include bicycle parking, an e-bike policy for the city, encouragement programs such as open streets and safe routes to schools, and educational campaigns such as driver-oriented programs and bicycle and pedestrian-oriented campaigns. Implementing these programs will require partnerships with community groups, schools, businesses, regional agencies, and others. To make all of this happen, the plan includes strategies for implementation, which include a list of priority projects to focus on based on a quantitative, data-driven process, a short and long-term phasing approach, cost estimates for those top priority projects, and a list of funding sources from federal, state, regional, and county sources. In addition to this plan, we've created supporting documents such as guidelines for pedestrian and bicycle treatments along roadways and at intersections in conjunction with national standards. We've also created wayfinding guidelines to accompany the bicycling network. These documents are to support city staff and projects as they're implemented, projects are implemented. Returning to this timeline, we are here tonight to present this final plan and to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. We'll start with questions from the council. Are there questions from the dais? Drew?
Not necessarily a question, but our neighbor Fresno, we're like little brother, big brother. Sometimes we fight, we elbow each other, but we got to give props where props are due. The city of Fresno has done a very good job upgrading their bike lanes and things like that. I accompanied a delegation to Munster, Germany, which is their sister city, and I was very impressed with the way the Germans handle their they're bicycling, and you really have to watch yourself. If you wander into a bike lane, you're going to get run over. And they just had a bike summit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend it here in Fresno. And so this is something that's the future. We just got a public comment a couple of weeks ago because this person was commuting to Clovis Community College and was having some difficulty. And we have areas where we have gaps because we don't have they go through county islands and things like that. So having a plan like this is really important because when either Measure C money comes up or potentially some federal grants, if we have a plan ready to go, we can get access to that money. So thank you for your work.
Thanks, Drew. Paul?
Yes. Thank you for the plan itself, very thorough. I wanted to, is it mine? Is it still echoing? Is it better? Okay. With regards, just to follow up on what Councilmember Bessinger said, I noticed that when we looked at the other plans, there was only looking at the county transportation plan. How much did we look at what Fresno was doing to see if we can get better connectivity with our bikes and their bikes? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the City of Fresno was one of our stakeholders that we engaged, and we are in constant contact with the City of Fresno, actually, and their staff. And we're keeping an eye on what they're doing because we'd like to learn from some of the bicycle facilities they're putting in right now. And so, yeah, we do. We're close with Fresno to make sure that we're making sure we make those connections and learning, actually.
Okay. Excellent. And I'm assuming that will continue with also our use of the FID canal banks potentially as those run into Fresno as well.
Yes, actually, I've reached out to Scott Mosier, the Public Works Director, to actually talk to him about that. Okay. I haven't spoke to him, but on how they're doing on their implementation of their Master Trails Agreement, yes.
Okay. Excellent. And with regards to e-bikes, I know there's recommendations to changing our ordinances. Is that something that we will see soon? Because I'm seeing a whole lot of e-bikes, and I think the recommendation is 20 miles per hour. Some of those things go faster than 20, and I just want to hear what our plans are and how they incorporate into. I live in Loma Vista, so they go into where there's really no designation of pedestrian bike. We all kind of walk together. And what our thoughts are in helping regulate it or really just keep it as is moving forward.
Yes, so actually we did invite PD to speak on the actual enforcement of e-bikes. This is a very growing concern amongst everyone, walkers and cyclists. Okay. And it's something that's growing in popularity. In fact, our friends from Munster, when they did their presentation at the Pedal Summit, they did address it because it's something that's happening over there as well. So I don't know if Corporal Bradford would like to come up and speak to specifically the enforcement leg. Yeah. This kind of touches on facilities, but that's what you're asking, I think, has more to do with enforcement of where they belong.
Okay. And if you can educate us so that way we can educate others on what our current ordinance is and where they can or cannot go, because we don't really know. I don't know. So.
Guess that would help, huh? So I know there's a municipal code ordinance. It's kind of gray if you talk about riding bicycles in the city parks and stuff like that. So that'll probably have to be looked at and modified to our needs. However, Vehicle Code 21207.5A talks about motorized bicycles and class 3 electric bicycles. Basically, they're not supposed to be operated on a bicycle path, trail, bikeway, or bicycle lane unless the lane or trail within the adjacent to a roadway or permitted by a local ordinance. So that's probably what we're going to probably have to look at. What are we going to do about a local ordinance? And then it also covers basically the golf carts, the golf cart issue now with these classic, you know, family rides in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And so we'll probably have to look at that. Those are relatively easy to enforce because if you're driving on the roadway, you have to have a headlight, tail light, windshield wipers, and we won't go into that. But those are probably a little easier to enforce. But I think come Christmas time, we're probably going to have a bigger problem with e-bikes because I'm sure every little Johnny and Susie is probably going to get an e-bike, you know, so, or their parents, yeah. So, yes, that's true. So that's something that we probably need to look at. And then the other aspect of it is how are we going to enforce it? You know, I'm a three-man traffic unit, and I'm the supervisor, and I got 2 motors. So we're going to have to figure out how are we going to enforce, you know, the parkway and the trails and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's coming, folks. So, you know, we're just going to have to adjust our enforcement skills and, you know, modify our you know, policies for Muni Code.
Have you seen more accidents with actual e-bikes versus regular bikes, or we don't have enough data yet? Do you know any of that?
No, I have not seen any accidents with the e-bikes, but our accident rate with pedestrians and bicycles are still there.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it is because the kids or adults are riding the wrong way against traffic, and especially at intersections, they have to ride with the flow of traffic, and they're riding against traffic, and cars are pulling out of a driveway or a cross street, and they look left, right, and then your norm to look left when you turn right, and they're not seeing the bicyclist, and the bicyclist is at fault because they're riding the wrong direction. So,
okay. But it's good to see that there's less fatalities with cyclists. Yes. I say that at least in the report it was only 1, but 4 with pedestrians. Well, and I wanted to move next to sort of, are the pedestrian ones more driver error, or is it education of the pedestrians, kind of like what you're saying with not obeying the rules or jaywalking, since jaywalking is not an offense now? And so it didn't show the details, but it was kind of worrisome that more people died, you know, with pedestrians accidents.
So I think a lot of it's going to have to come back to public awareness. We're going to have to educate the public, and we might as well just start soon. We could probably start doing something on our end, putting vehicle codes out there through TIE on, you know, Facebook and stuff like that, and then holding some type of, I don't know, safety seminar or something like that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And then with regards to the plan itself or the education was a big component of it. And so what are the ways, because I've seen that Fresno has their new lanes, the coloring, and it may be easy to understand, but then like what we are going to do in Clovis, what are our plans with regards to education and as we move forward to the different class bike lanes?
So definitely educational outreach is essential, and I think we could probably work with admin now that we have a solidified social media presence and it's growing in popularity. We're always posting, we're always pushing information out there. So getting out there, getting ahead of it, it could probably be incorporated maybe into our non-project specific outreach that they're looking to do more of, so more public PSAs, for example. So we can work towards that as well. We can do some highlighting when it is actual pedestrian safety month as well as cycle safety month or bicycle safety month. But there are also opportunities of funding out there that maybe we could work with other city departments. I know us in engineering, we're more of the infrastructure arm of it. So the public outreach and everything that we've seen in the past, that kind of took a pause, unfortunately, due to COVID. I mean, I think there was some pause back in the 2008 recession to funding sources, and you kind of started to move upwards, and then you had COVID happen, and you weren't allowed to be around anybody. So now I think that those days are gone, hopefully, that things are kind of revving back up. Maybe we can work towards that and help working with, like, PD and getting out there, since they really do have such a strong public presence. I mean, I think of Clovis Night Out. What a wonderful opportunity to get out and maybe do some cycle safety demonstrations and look towards that, and maybe helping them look at funding sources that could help aid those efforts.
And if you can refresh my memory with regards to Measure C, if we stripe to where it's sort of that buffered striping, is that covered under Measure C, or is that one where it is not covered? I forgot.
I believe so, and actually currently the city does all the restriping of the bike lanes under the bicycle portion allocation that we get for Measure C. So that's why our bike lanes always look very freshly painted, is because we dedicate those funds on an annual basis. If we begin to do like the buffered lanes, we will have to work with public utilities in consideration as to what that cost looks like. Just like if we were to ever consider doing anything above and beyond. There's a lot of money out there available for infrastructure improvements and actually the installation of these, but that money doesn't speak to the maintenance effort. And I think that's something we need to very much consider when it comes to this level of improvement. Is it looks great when it's freshly laid, but then over time it begins to almost look erased. I mean, I see that routinely everywhere for areas that don't have access to maintenance money like we do with Measure C. So it will definitely need to be something we consider.
And my last comment and point is with regards to lighting and trails. So how are there, are there much going on there, especially parts where we see that it's darker or needing more lighting?
Bless you. Actually, so we are kind of learning from the sins of our past. Lighting was not something that was routinely put in when developing out trail systems. So I believe that is something that as we grow and develop out into these growth areas, it is being incorporated from the get-go into these systems. Learning from the past, we actually just recently looked at Measure C and to really take an deep dive to see if those dollars would be available to going back in and installing some of those improvements. And it is something we are considering, particularly one that the public has brought to our attention is in Cottonwood Park, the Dry Creek Trail that runs back along the neighborhood there. It's rather dark. It connects two trail systems. It's a pretty popular trail, so it is something we are considering and looking at. It's very costly to go back in and make these improvements, so we are mindful of that. And again, without a funding source like Measure C, there isn't a whole lot out there to go back and make these improvements. So we've got to kind of get it right when we do it for the first time. So we're doing what we can where we can.
And are we doing that on the canal banks in FID? Lighting?
So I'm going to let Ryan speak.
No? Okay. I see Scott shaking now. Okay. So that means we're going to have to go back now. Well, you just, okay. Thank you. Excellent report.
Anyone else? Remember my Boys' Day idea about standing on the corner with a flag and having a flag on one side and a flag on the other. You don't need flashing lights in the street. I'm just saying it was a thing in Boise. Just a couple of comments. So thank you for the work. A couple questions. It does fit nicely, I think, into the work we've done earlier as a city around our strategic plan for the next decade, because people want to live where there's quality of life chances are high. So I think there's a definite link to that. I have to say the one thing that surprised me, and I would lie if I told you I read every single word, but as I flipped through and read the parts that I kind of went like, that's interesting, I very rarely saw the word health. And something about active transportation, you have as one of your 5 pillars, you have, I forgot what it was already, but it didn't mention health. And I think it's a missed opportunity because partly it's getting to where you need to go. You can get to work on a bike or on a trail, but there's also that health element. So I think it's an opportunity as we think about this to elevate, you can live in Clovis and be healthy and get to the store or get to your job. So I was surprised not to see more mention of health. I think we get so busy on the modes of transportation that we forget sort of why it's there, and that really is to keep people healthy in addition to the transit. So I just wanted to comment on that. I love the signage and the wayfinding pieces. I thought those were great. I think the better we can help people connect is great. I had a question, you kind of mentioned it, Tatiana, on the kind of expensive to go back in. The trails are a wonderful asset, and as they deteriorate, they're less wonderful. Is there attention to that idea? I didn't see much on trail maintenance in here either. Is that not part of the plan, or does it come somewhere else? But I think that's another element that it's like your faded, erased bike lanes, right? They're not that helpful. So what do you think about maintenance on trails?
So this document is a high-level document kind of painting the path forward. It's not really referencing the maintenance arm, unfortunately. What you are recognizing is something that we as staff, as well as members of the public, have pointed out to us. There is some funding sources, and again, I mean, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but Measure C, again, is our available outlet of funds that we can go back in and do that. So we do have some small segments of trail pavement maintenance that we do program every year, and we look at for consideration. Usually they're some of the worst conditions that we go after first, obviously, because we don't want hazards to be out there. So doing large segments is kind of problematic right now, so it is smaller, but it is something we are tackling.
It'll be important in the next iteration of Measure C that we make sure we build in some maintenance money, because we don't need to keep building this stuff if we can't take care of it, because then someone else's problem 20 years from now is going to be like, why did they do that? And my final comment is there was several references to safe routes to schools, which I think is huge. And I know COG is going to try to put together a county-wide assessment, and I think that's the right thing for us to do as a county. And whether you live in a community that, maybe doesn't have the wherewithal, the rest of us have to figure out how to fund that, because it's just really not acceptable that kids anywhere, Parlier or Huron or Clovis or Fresno, are getting hit by cars as frequently as they are on their way to school. When you looked at your crash or accident data, it's just really an unacceptable standard. So anyways, happy to see that in there, and I think Clovis, does a great job, and we don't have as many, I don't think, disconnected kind of places, but we have some, and I think it's really it's our obligation to make sure that kids get to school safely if they can. So anyway, nice job on the report, on the active transportation and health report. All right, open the public portion. Anybody in the audience wishing to comment on this? Mr. Rowell, and then Ms. Sumner.
Good evening. I'm David Rowell. I've been a resident of Clovis since 1991. I am a huge fan of bicycles. Up until quite recently, my regimen was 50 miles a week on my bike. I'm out as often. I'm trying to get back to that. But whenever I'm out on a bicycle, whether it's in a bike lane or on a paseo or on the Old Town Trail or in any of the routes, I can't tell you the number of times I've said to myself, I have to thank the City Council about this. Biking in Clovis is really a wonderful experience. I ride up the canal banks and around the hospital, and it's all tremendous. And I guess all I want to say is this is that night. Thank you very much for everything you've done and this wonderful report, and I anticipate even more in the future. And it does contribute to health, and I think it does contribute to the wonderfulness that is Clovis. Yeah. It's a community where you can bike to. I bike to the store. I put a quart of milk in my backpack and bike home. You can't do that a lot of places. You totally can do it here, and it's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for those comments. Tina?
Hello. My name is Tina Sumner, and I actually have to second what he said. My husband and I ride a lot, and I'm all the time saying we are so lucky to live here where there are such nice facilities. So, thank you for what the city has done and the effort that's been made so far. I think there's a lot of things that we can do to make cycling safer here. I'm the advocacy director for the Fresno Cycling Club. We have a membership of, it varies between, 800 and 1,000 people who are recreational cyclists primarily, people that cycle for recreation and health. We have a lot of people who were unhealthy and got into cycling and have improved their lives by doing that. And so as the advocacy director, one of the things that I do is to look at what the different jurisdictions are doing around the area, and to make sure that the cyclists are at the table and have a voice in what's being done. Because often in the planning community, the planners aren't necessarily cyclists, and so it's important for us to be there. And Nick Palladino and I, Nick is also was my predecessor as the advocacy director, and we've worked extensively with Ryan and Tatiana on this plan, and they have given us an opportunity to review each draft of the document, and we had a lot of comments, and they were very, very kind to hear what we were saying and to incorporate those comments. And so just as an overview, I'd like to say that on behalf of the Fresno Cycling Club, we appreciate this document, and we would love for you to adopt it tonight. Kind of in more of a detail, though, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One of the things is safety. We've been very fortunate here in the city of Clovis not to have cyclists being killed, but in the metropolitan area as a whole, and in the county, we've had several deaths in the last couple of years, and I think anything that we can do to minimize that, I don't know what you're doing and you don't know what I'm doing between the cyclists and the cars is critical to having a safer cycling experience. And so one of those things that we've talked about is connectivity. I think that one of the most important things that we can do as part of this plan is to identify those areas where you're riding along in a bike lane and then all of a sudden the bike lane's gone. And there you are out in the traffic lane. And for those of us that ride a lot, we signal, we get over, we take the lane, it's like, here we are. But for a lot of people that just all of a sudden are out in a traffic lane, it is very, very scary. And so in those places, we need to look at, can we put up signage that says bike lane ends, so that the drivers know the bike lane ends, the bike knows the bike lane ends, and we're not surprising each other. So to be able to as we go forward, identify those and just make some of those easy fixes that will just make it that much more safe. The other thing that is very important are the intersections. And as we're going forward and developing into new areas, we're doing, I think, a much better job of getting full intersections that have bike safety. And one of the things that really makes a difference in that is the bike pocket. So when you pull up to the crosswalk, there is a little lane that the bikes belong in. And for the motorists, that way, because if all the bikes are in the turn lane, then you've got motorists behind that are unhappy about that. And now they're mad at bikes, and they're like, I got to get to work. And so, or the bikes are over in the front of the through lane, and the drivers are ready to go, and there's bikes. And so one of the things that we have looked at doing and have done a couple of, but most often there's not enough geometry to do it, is to retrofit some of that. But in the new development areas, it is a must that we build out those intersections with full bike facilities so that the bikes have a place to be, the cars know, the bikes know, and it minimizes that clash of the two types of transportation. The other thing I wanted to mention is, we agree that getting the policy together for e-bikes is really important and needs to be kind of one of the early things, because whether there's a policy or not, there's a lot of e-bikes out there. Some of them are true e-bikes where you pedal and you get pedal assist, and some of them are really just like scooters. You know, you don't have to pedal at all. And so we need to really look at that, and we've offered to the staff for us to be at the table on those discussions as people who are out there in the bike world. But one of the things that has recently come up is there's a bill that's been introduced. It's Assembly Bill 530, and it's actually regarding e-bikes. And when we were talking about the issue of the police being involved in, and this requires that you have to be at least 12 years old to ride an e-bike, and that to ride an e-bike you have to have a permit, and so you have to take if this passes, you would have to take a test online, have a permit. And so what is the enforcement of that? You know, we were just talking about enforcement, and so what is the enforcement of 12 and older, and anybody that rides an e-bike is supposed to have a permit. So there's some issues coming up there that we want to be sure and be ahead of. And then lastly, I would just say one of the issues that's in the plan is the issue of bike parking. And I feel very strongly that we cannot go forward with bike parking unless we talk about and work on getting a handle on bike theft. You know, people cannot leave their bikes if their bike is going to disappear in a hot minute when they run into the store or go to the mall, or, you know. So as a combination in talking about bike parking, we really need to be talking about bike theft and what that parking is going to look like around that. So I will finish my comments there. I could go on and on, but I won't.
No, you can't. No, I'm
so yeah. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Tina. And I think you were part of the city team that helped get some of these original trails and whatnot going. So thank you for your work as a city employee for all those years.
Yeah,
thank you. That was kind of a good, like, get a handle on. Is that like a bike joke? Get a handle on theft.
Get a handle on theft. Yeah,
I thought it was funny.
That could be our new theme.
Funny.
So,
okay,
yeah.
Fine.
Nice
to see you again, Tina. And Mr. Palladino, thank you for being here. Congratulations on your award at the Pedal Summit as well. Brent.
Yes, hello, my name is Brent Burdine, and I had just two comments I'd like to make. One is I strongly encourage adding or maintaining the lights for the trails and for the bike lanes. There are many trails in Clovis where they're pretty dark, especially as the trees have developed and matured. The trails have gone darker. There's also areas of bike lanes where there's the distance between street lights. There's a noticeable gap. Again, in older neighborhoods of more mature trees, it causes even greater shadows. So I'd like to see that with this plan going forward, we maintain that you're planning for the lighting. It's not an afterthought, and in many areas, I think it should be retroactively installed. The second issue is on basically bicyclist education, both for the public and especially for bicyclists. And that one thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of bicyclists that are wearing dark clothing or drab clothing. It's at night. There's not enough reflectors on the bicycles. They're not wearing reflective clothing, or they don't have any bike lights. And again, going through these darker areas where there's heavy shadows and there's gaps between light and dark given off by the street lights, sometimes a shadow will go past you, or you just passed a shadow. It's kind of dangerous, I think. That it's something that I remember in my youth and a long time ago in a place far, far away, I had to take my bicycle to Jefferson for Clovis police to look at my bicycle, make sure I have to have reflectors on it. and if I wanted to ride at night, I had to have a light. But I think this is something, when you talk about educating bicyclists, maybe at, Enchanted Evening, you start addressing these issues about helping bicyclists, try to make themselves visible. And at the same time, if we can do a campaign in Clovis, so that we're sharing the road with bicyclists too.
I feel that way with just walking, even walking in those same places without, like an orange jacket. It is a little scary, and that's just on a sidewalk. So on the street, it would be even. Well, scarier.
Also, it affects our vision. we lose our nighttime purples. We're in a well-lit area.
Yeah.
Then there's a gap. Maybe the lights are there, but the trees are mature.
Yeah.
Our buildings, and you go into a very dark section for 5, 10, 15 seconds. Then when you come back into the lighted area, you're a little bit disorientated in your vision. It takes you a while for you to recover your night vision, but.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Jenny?
So I'm Jenny Kren. I live on Bullard Avenue, over in the Loma Vista area, and I wanted to comment about one constituent constituent group that we haven't talked a lot about in terms of the transportation issue, and that is canines, dogs. I walk the paseos almost every day, but a lot of times to get to the paseos and such, I have to be on city sidewalks. I'm also in a part of the city where there's not any sidewalks because more recently been annexed, and so dogs don't always react. Even when they're well trained, they can get spooked. They can, somebody comes up behind me on an e-bike or something. They're coming faster than usual, and I don't always have time to get the dog out of the way. But it's true of any bicyclist too. Is that the dogs are just not quite as smart as we'd like them to be. A little training for, if you're doing safety courses or something like that, how to interact with dogs and share the space. And I only take one dog. I know people that walk 3 big dogs at a time. I just have visions of all sorts of tangled, everything. And then also I appreciate the little bags for the, cleaning up afterwards. It'd be really nice, although I'm really dedicated and I'll carry poop for, a mile, but a lot of people won't. If you could think about trash cans, periodically at places. So I think that would encourage people. They'll use the bag and then they'll dump them in the bushes. So anyway,
yeah, good
thank
idea.
you.
Thank you, Jenny. I've picked up more than my share of someone else's dog poop, which is like, come on, people, pick it up. All right, anybody else? Anyone online, Carrie? All right, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the council. There are 2 items before us. Additional discussion and or motion would be appreciated.
I was going to make one more comment. For the next 7 years from now, I don't know if I'll be in the council then, but if there would be a section, I know you mentioned it a little bit from the 2016, but just some like benchmarks, like, hey, we did this in 2016, we set these goals, here are the, this is what we achieved. I know you listed it generally, but it would be good to see what we've accomplished since 2016 till now. And then here we have a document with all these benchmarks as well, and then on the next time we do it, just to have in the report, not in the actual plan itself. And so that's all.
All right, thanks. I'd entertain a motion if there was some.
Yeah, just a comment, and then I'll make the motion. The precursor to our trail program was our old rail, the railroad that went through town. And we had one of our police officers, Marianne Mulring. She was a great police officer, but she was an architect by training. And she retired from the PD and went to work in the city manager's office. And she did a lot of the heavy lifting on trails, on upgrading medians and things like that. So I just wanted to throw Mary Ann some, hopefully I will see her at the qualification for, cops have to qualify every year, the retirees. Anyway, I'll make the motion. Approve an environmental finding of negative declaration for the City of Clovis Active Transportation Plan update.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And 6B, approve the City of Clovis Active Transportation Plan update.
I'll second that as well.
There's a motion and a second. Other discussion on that item? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for your comments tonight. Thanks for being here. All right, under administrative items, the downside of paper is you kind of lose your way sometimes. The next item, it's right here. Thanks, I got it. Is, I don't want to do this item. This item makes me, cranky. All right, it is a receive and file, not personal to you two gentlemen, by the way. Report assessment election results for Landscape Maintenance District Number 1, Benefit Zones 2 and 5. Paul Armendariz and Eric Aller. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So tonight, Eric and I are going to report on the recent results of the Zone 2 and 5 election for the Landscape Maintenance Districts.
Just think you are. There you go.
All right, there we go. So starting with a quick summary of the ballots that were mailed out and the ballots that were returned. In Zone 2, we had about 5,900 ballots that went out to our residents in that area. A little under 1,800 ballots were returned, and that's about a 30% return rate. For Zone 5, we had a little over 3,600 ballots that went out to those residents. A little over 1,100 were returned, and that's a 31% return
Paul,
rate.
how, just for fun, since I thought we had such a great idea for outreach, is that higher than usual?
So,
Or
actually,
no?
looking back through historical elections, it's actually about the same return
About the
rate.
same.
So we thought we did as the ballots were coming in and we were keeping an eye on the boxes that were filling up. We thought we had several more, but when we got to the end of the counting of the ballots, it's about the average rate of return.
Okay, darn it.
So starting with the Zone 2 election results, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess depending on what side of the vote the residents are on, the proposed increase did not pass. The outcome was a 58% who voted no and about 41% who voted yes, so about 100 ballot difference in that ballot count. So what does that mean? So currently in Zone 2, that area is maintained by contractors, or is contractor maintained. On today's consent calendar, we, council approved awarding a contract, multiple contracts for maintenance of the landscape maintenance districts in various zones throughout the city, and Zone 2 is one of those zones included in that. The cost of maintenance for that zone is a little bit more than what it was in the last contract term, but it's about 20 to 30% lower than other zones in the city. So this area of maintenance is already at a 20 to 30% reduced maintenance schedule than some of the other areas in the city that are more well-funded. We're at a reduced watering schedule in Zone 2. Some of that's because of the state-mandated ban of irrigation of non-functional turf, but there is a little bit of a savings to that, so we're already saving where we can on reduced watering. Currently, we're at a selective tree pruning and tree removal schedule. So what that means, we are aware of several dead trees out there in this zone, as well as other zones. So just as an example, Zone 1, north of Herndon, that area passed an election last year. Just this year, we got quotes back to remove about 80 trees in that area. And so we're going to come out, remove the trees, do some stump grinding. So we're able to come through and do a large amount of trees. In Zone 2, because of this election not passing, we're going to have to be a little bit more selective in our removal of trees. So we're not going to be able to put out a contract, remove all the dead trees, but we will be able to move trees based on safety issues. Or another example, in this last contract year, we did some structural pruning on some eucalyptus trees on Armstrong Avenue south of Toll House. And so there was a street project that was coming through. There was some concern about the branches being low hanging and potential damage to those trees. So we came through with the project and did some structural pruning. So projects like that we'll still try to do, but we're definitely going to have to be more selective going forward.
Paul, remind us of the threshold to pass. 2/3.
No, you need, it's a majority, so just 50% plus 1.
50% plus 1, okay.
Correct. So based on the current funding and expectations going forward, looking at our projections this year, if we maintain the services we're currently at, we'll be at a deficit spending. And if we maintain that in about 2 to 3 years, we'll be in our reserves and we'll deplete our reserves at that rate. So obviously what that means, we don't want to do that. And so we're going to have to look at different options to reduce services even more to get through until we do another election in this zone. All right, moving on to Zone 5. Zone 5 is the park zones, or excuse me, the park sites in this zone. This zone also did not pass. 54% voted to not pass this increase in rates, and 46% voted for it. About a 90 or so ballot difference again. So Zone 5 is, and worse, just to be really blunt and straightforward, is Zone 5 is in a worse condition than Zone 2. So Zone 5 has failed election increases 3 times in the last 10 years. So we tried 2013, we tried in, 2016 I think it was, 2022, and then again this year. So we're already at a reduced service. We're mowing a couple times a month. Playground equipment in this area is not being replaced unless there is a safety hazard. Then we'll go and remove that, either do a quick repair or remove that. Going forward, our reserves are depleted, so we really don't have much wiggle room in our spending here. We really have to reduce services even further by another 20% or so just to get under and not continue to spend against or go in the negative in our reserves. We're looking at decreasing watering. So in the park areas, we can have turf, so there is turf in those areas, as opposed to the street side landscaping where we have the state ban. But we're looking at reduced watering schedules in this area. Also reduce mowing, just really reduce services in this area. Equipment and furniture, park benches, drinking fountains, anything like that in our parks, should they get damaged, we will not be able to repair them. So we'll have to remove those, caution tape them off, and wait till there's funding to replace. Recommendations, next steps. What we plan to do or consider doing is social media outreach, just reporting back the results to our residents and some of the expected outcomes. We've discussed mailing an informational flyer to those residents in this zone, just stating the outcome of the elections and the reduced maintenance that will be in these areas. We're also considering signage at the parks in Zone 5 and then other options. And so we have, Eric and I have a meeting tomorrow morning with our parks lead workers just to brainstorm on some other reduced maintenance activities that might be able to save some money in these zones. So we're looking at other options. There's always the option of a election again. We've discussed maybe separating and just going Zone 5 by itself as opposed to Zone 2 and 5, but we probably want to look at doing that in a year or two, but we'll just another option to consider. So sorry for the bad news, but that's where we are at with Zones 2 and 5, and we are available for any questions.
Thanks. Questions?
The voting is with property owners, correct?
Property owners who are in that zone who pay the assessment, yes.
And Scott, is there a way, is that a state law? Is there a way to change it where it's actually tenants, the people who live in there versus the property owner? Because I'm assuming the rents find its way to pay, the taxes, whatever the fees are, because I understand that if there's an apartment complex, that one owner has, whatever, 50 votes versus me out of one vote. And so is there a way to change that, affect that, where the actual tenants who live in the multi-units who don't own, who are renting, I'm assuming, can have a vote?
So it's Prop 218, and it does require, the actual constitutional language requires notice and the opportunity to make a protest ballot on the property owner. Now, an agency can open it up further, but then you run the risk of having conflicting votes. So oftentimes agencies will, maybe for smaller protest proceedings, maybe not in the thousands like we have here, open it up to providing notice to the actual resident, mailed notice going to the property, as opposed to the tax roll property that could be an out-of-state owner or something like that. But then you do run the risk of a property owner submitting a vote and the actual occupant also submitting a vote, and then you're only required to accept one. And so which one would you accept? So the better option is to notify the property owners. They may allow the resident to vote, the occupant to vote it, but the property owners are the ones entitled to the notice and the ability to actually submit the ballot.
Am I correct in that if there are 50 units, that property owner gets 50 votes? Or is it still just one vote?
No, I think it's one vote per property. Yeah.
One vote, but it's weighted based on how many EDU are in that property. So they get one vote, but it counts more than just a single-family residential.
How much does it count?
I think it's on the slide, isn't it?
Is there?
I don't know. I mean, that's dollar amount, though, but you have to break it out.
Is it by units? I mean, I want to know how much we're losing by, if it's close enough. My thinking is just, if I live there, I want my property to be, or the outside to be nice, my parks, and the owner may not be there, and so he's just looking at it financially. Like, hey, why would I increase what I have to pay to the city? Yeah, and so the residents may have more stake at what they're looking at and wanting improvement.
Correct. It's considered a weighted vote, so it's based on the EDUs, equivalent dwelling unit, and how much what that is valued at. So an apartment complex is valued much larger per tenant. So the vote is actually, it's a weighted, each assessment would count as a vote. And so when they tabulate the vote, they take the total dollar amounts.
And it is roughly one single-family residential. The multifamily is about 50 of those votes, roughly. So it's one vote is like 50 counts.
Yeah, that's huge.
But it does vary on the size of the multifamily development.
Either way, if they voted no or yes, it would make a huge swing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But if you had the 50 tenants vote,
that's correct.
You might get 25 or whatever. You might.
A multifamily commercial is based on square footage. Their vote can swing an election.
And then in a commercial, if the property owns the entire, it's regardless of how many tenants are in there, how many commercial spaces?
I believe so, yes.
You see, so even then, I mean, me as a store owner, I want the front to be clean because I want to be able to attract businesses and, the sides to look nice, whatever. And the commercial property owner may or may not live here, or may not have I mean, that's just one thing to look at as, I guess, is that a council thing, John? How will we go about if we want to move that way to where we look at options on how we can, I don't know what it is, Scott or John, what we can do, but.
We can take a look at it and work with the city attorney's office, and when we do come back with zones 2 and 5 again in the future, we can make a recommendation after we take further analysis.
I don't know if the rest of my colleagues want that analysis done. It's the new protocols. No.
I don't know how to make the protocols work. I don't know.
But that's something I want us to look at if my other colleagues agree. And then my other comment is, with regards to the maintenance outside, we have one vendor taking care of the entire area, like a zone 2.
That's correct.
Would it be cheaper at all if we broke that up, and some people might be able to, like, to handle the entire thing, it might be harder for one guy, one company, which is a bigger company who can put more, but if you get 3 or 4 mom and pops, this is my section, I charge less, my labor's me, and I'll do a good job for you, city, but, you know, I'm only a $50,000 contract. Again, I know that there's more people for you to deal with, but I'm just saying, you know, that why don't we break it up and allow more people to get in on the action and say, hey, you know, the one guy's taking too much, not taking too much, but, you know, for him, the cost might be more. And I just see that there's a lot of potential gardeners out there who may be able to bid and do just as good a job or cost less. I don't know. Just another thought.
Yeah, I mean, based on our experience and putting these contracts out to bid, we've seen that the larger the square footage, it's kind of a magnitude of scale. So the larger the area, the better prices we're getting. Areas like Zone 2, contractors are able to give a better price because they know they're getting a large area. Some of the issues we could run into, too, is just you'd have, although you have it zone by zone, but you might have street to street, just different levels of services, and so that might get, and you have all the residents paying the same assessment, so there could be an issue with that too.
Okay. Thank you.
Ann?
So I agree with Vong's original comment about the discrepancy in the weighted votes, but my concerns with all of these different districts and assessment zones and that is even greater than that, because you alluded to it slightly, and that's that not even all of the properties within that zone pay into the assessment. And so we have people who are affected by the level of service that's voted on that don't even participate in that by election or by paying the fees. And I just see that as a council who is here to kind of oversee the entire city. Our staff does the same thing. I'm developing a strong aversion to just the concept of these districts. And I don't know the mechanics of it. I don't know how it could possibly work. But is there an option to do a citywide district that everybody is paying into? Because I think we all share the desire to have a good-looking city. And the other thing that really, really frustrates me about these things is that I am convinced that the majority of the people who received ballots, despite all of our efforts and signage and all of that, literally do not understand what this is about. And I think that's incredibly not working in our favor as well. And I understand that as city staff, we're limited in how we can communicate with them, education versus advocacy and those types of things. And I appreciate that, but I feel like somehow we all need to be literally in the same boat on this stuff, as far as everybody paying into it and not having one neighborhood that didn't understand it and didn't pass their election to allow for an increase in fees to maintain or improve their services, then another neighborhood, maybe they did actually understand it, or for whatever reason they did pass it, and so they have a nicer looking neighborhood, but people don't understand why. And as a whole city and a whole community, the fact that there are pockets that look good and pockets that don't, I don't think is a good look for us overall. And so I don't know how the mechanics work, but if there's a possibility to somehow just have the Clovis Landscape Municipal District and whatever, I would be so in favor of that.
Thank you. We have talked about it over the years. I mean, I live in Zone 2, I think, or 5, but I don't pay for either one of them because somehow my house wasn't that house. So I do think it's a little weird, and I think the overhaul of our landscape zone districts would be a pretty big undertaking for you all to embark on, not a worthwhile one. But I mean, I think it would take some thinking about how do you unwind, how do you vote back in. Prop 218 seems like a factor. So it's not a faint of heart project, but it's probably something to think about over time. Because it is, and it's so hard for you all to manage. And if I got 2 ballots, if I was in Zone 2 and 5, I'd go, wait, I already voted in that, I don't want to vote again. So I just think we've made it complicated for people who barely can vote for the president or any other big ticket items, so I think this is just easy to get lost. So I agree with you. I think it's complicated. Add that to your list of things to do. Revamp the landscape zoning after, yeah, that'd be good.
It is, and one thing on the zones, so the newer zones, the southeast, the northwest, that we've these areas are a little older, and so the newer areas, everybody's paying into that assessment, and it's like 4 times the cost of what Zone 2 is, and so we've kind of fixed that going forward. Yeah, and a citywide would require a 218, and so we'd have to, that'd have to be approved by the voters as well.
Except we wouldn't pass that neighborhood, so what would be the point? All right, thank you. Anything else for staff? Public comment on this item, Mr. Gibson? I just say, are you in 2, 5, or somewhere else? Will you turn your microphone on? Mr. Gibson, your microphone? That's all right.
Thank you, Dave.
That's what friends are for.
Not only, yeah. Anyway, and I apologize if you might have addressed this because, the hearing thing, but I offer this as observation, not criticism, but I thought the effort to get this passed was far too passive. I mean, I got a thing in the mail that basically said, hey, we're going to charge you another $130 a year. And a couple of pictures and whatever, and that's it. I'm sorry. I think I don't know what restrictions you have, but I think doing things to generate some buzz about this, because I think it's a wonderful thing. I agree with you. We want a pretty city, but we want those playgrounds too. And I don't know how long it takes for you to revisit this, but I think a more aggressive campaign, and I don't even know if you're possible doing this, but you might be able to get neighbors to do this, to go show up at the park one afternoon, have a thing at 1 o'clock, invite all the neighbors over, and I don't know if you can serve tea, but do something. No, I'm serious, but do something to generate, because we got something in the mail. My wife and I looked at it, we read it. Most people probably went, and so, you got to do something, because this is important, and particularly about the playground. And the other thing I had, and I don't know restrictions on this, there's Adopt a Highway. Can you adopt a park?
You have had volunteer programs.
Could you get neighbors to get out there to help keep it up and identify things that are wrong and maybe sometimes even fix it? Yes. So that's just me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have had volunteer programs over the years, for sure.
Yes, we have a volunteer adopt a park program.
So we have an Adopt a Park program, and we'll sign you up for your park. You're welcome. So we could certainly promote, do that. I think we can't advocate, so all we can do is educate. So we can't say, we tried to say if you vote no, this is what's going to happen, but that wasn't enough to, obviously. But you can, no, for sure, you can. So I think, yeah. All right, so you're adopting a park and a neighborhood to walk. Okay, good. All right, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Bring it back to the council. This is a receive and file item only, so thank you for your work. Thank you for not saying my idea was dumb, because apparently it didn't help. All right, our next item is a receive and file, an update on the City of Clovis Civic Center landscaping. And this looks like Thad Avery and Nate Stava. I went to high school with someone with the last name of Stava. Are your parents from San Diego?
Southern California, Orange County.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. With this being his first council presentation, I thought it would be good to properly introduce. This is Nate Stava. He is one of our up-and-coming civil engineers in the engineering department. He was a project engineer on the project that we'll be discussing with item number 8.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As Thad said, my name is Nate Stava. I'm here to present on the Civic Center landscaping project. The proposed project is located in the Civic Center campus. It includes all the hardscape and landscape from the courthouse to the library. Some history on the campus. The campus was originally built in the mid-1970s. The addition of the courthouse came in the early 1980s. Other than accessibility modifications, the campus has not had any major improvements. Last year, our department sent out a request for proposal to 4 landscape architects. After scoring the RFPs and conducting interviews, Milton Design Group was awarded a 2-phase agreement. First phase was to create a schematic master plan with the proposed cost estimate. Second phase would finalize the design, create construction documents, and assist in bid administration. During the second phase is also when we would perform any community outreach. The current funding is only allocated for the first phase of this agreement, and our project has reached the end of that phase. The design goal for the project was to modernize the campus without clashing with any of the existing buildings. Along with Milton Design Group, we had staff from administration, public utilities, and PDS to offer input. We hope to maximize the use of the area for the public, city staff, facilitate wayfinding, and maintain a safe environment. A phased approach to the construction was recommended due to the high estimate costs. The first phase of the project contains the majority of the hardscape, along with the agreed consultant costs for all the construction documents and bid administration. Some key features for this phase include a new entry plaza, a raised stage for events, and raised planters with seating in the community area right outside between the buildings. Phase 2 for the project includes all the hardscape north of City Hall, some concrete seating for the proposed stage area, and the hardscape and landscaping just south of the library. Phase 3 of the project has the remaining hardscape just north of the library, and it also includes 4 art pieces and a central focus piece right in front of the buildings. The total cost for the project is a little over $4 million. This cost includes roughly $450,000 in alternatives, a 10% contingency, and assumed city administration costs. This cost is only for today's estimate and does not include any escalators for future years. The purpose of this report and presentation is just to provide council with an update and provide a vision for what we could do if and when funding becomes available. Right now, there is no funding source, and so there is no recommended action at this time. That is all we have. We are available for any questions.
And if I could just add to that, I kind of alluded to it last week or a few weeks ago when I was talking about the improvements needed here around the Civic Center and the lack of funding to be able to do it. I put these guys through a little bit of work 2 years ago after traveling, coming back to City Hall and looking at our 50-year-old structure and asking some of Eric's guys to fix some of the plumbing outside. And with the 50-year-old system, you can't just replace a sprinkler. The trees growing in the plumbing have destroyed everything. My purpose of bringing this forward to City Council is just to let you know that what I had estimated $1 million upgrade 2 years ago turns out to be about $4 million. We don't have the funding for it. We do need to plan for it because at some point we are going to need to upgrade the hardscape and softscape around City Hall. But at this point, I'm recommending we stop at phase 1, put it on the shelf, and if and when funding does become available, it would be nice to move forward with some of the improvements that are going to be needed someday.
John, questions for John?
It looks beautiful, and I'm sort of one who is in favor of agreeing, allowing, pushing you to find the funding to move this quicker rather than later, because I think this gives an impression of those who come here. I know that when friends or relatives who come to see me, I always take them to come see the chamber just because, you know, they want to see how the city works. But if it looked like this, then you would take them all around. Yeah, and then I am biased in that I park in front of the council chambers, and these new sidewalks are helpful. Instead of me running on the grass there to get there. But John, how
Yeah, please really take a serious look, and I think this is something which is needed, would really improve, just the perception of City Hall and what it looks like. Yeah.
Agreed. In 1976, this campus was state-of-the-art and very inviting. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to keep it to the standard. It's maintained pretty well, but it's still, especially the landscaping and the hardscape, we haven't been able to maintain it to the level we would like to. We have so much patchwork work done over the years, and I'm going to strive to figure out a funding source to make it happen, even if we have to do it in phases.
I think the only comment I would add is I think the plaza and the stage, and it could be beautiful and maybe not all of that hardscape initially. So I think that's right. And I guess without sounding a little bit like sour grapes, which is what this is about to sound like, last time we gave away $1.5 million to build out office space, and this was one of the projects that was deferred. So kind of shame on us that we haven't done it for 50 years. I totally get why. But I guess because it's deteriorate isn't a reason to go, oh, we'll just let it keep deteriorating. It's just going to get more expensive. So I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Moanatoa. This is where we live. So I think all things can be true at the same time, but we just deferred this because anyway, that does sound like sour grapes. I'll stop talking. But I think it's worth seeing how to phase it, maybe it's 5 phases and not 4, or something smaller to start, but it's not going to get any cheaper for sure.
Understood.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I would just say, looking at this, I would like to see it more of a long-term project as far as the whole facilities. Not just the hardscape outside. It's like we go build and we put everything on the hardscape, but then we got to rebuild a building or tear something down, and it takes effect on what we just did. So, while I like all that too in the phases, and but we are at a point where office space is an issue. How our facility looks and the upgrades and things that need to be done and kept up. So I would just suggest that as we go forward with this, we look at it as a whole campus type of atmosphere and how that would break out into phases as opposed to just the hardscape that goes with it as well.
So part of the analysis that we've done after beginning this a year and a half ago was going to be that we're just beginning a facility needs assessment, and that is going to take a look at the bigger picture about what does the city of Clovis need over the next 20 years in order to be able to grow and absorb the increased number of employees. The police and fire building is getting to a point where we're probably going to have to find a new headquarters for the fire department. You take a look at the acquisition of the courthouse when we are able to get that. What are we going to do with that? The old library, what are we going to do with that? So we are on the front end of a facility needs assessment and working with all the departments and likely bringing somebody on board who could assist us with planning. You take a look at this building has a 50-year-old roof. And bless you. And I have not set aside funding to replace it. So we're working on it. It's just in the nature of government is that we don't depreciate, where a private corporation would set money aside so that at year 30 you have a chunk of change set aside so that you're now going to refurbish that building, and we don't do that. But we'll figure it out.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Comments from the public on this item? Mr. Rowell? Yes, there'll be bike parking. I made that up.
Well, thank you again. And for the record, David Rowell, long-term Clovis resident. I would agree very strongly with Mayor Pro Tem Moanatoa. I think the council should make this a priority item. The cost of this stuff is only going to go up, and the need for it will go up as well. So you will find yourself even more behind the 8 ball as time passes. I'd also point out that the interplay between this item and the immediately preceding item is rather interesting, isn't it? You could consider yourselves voters on a Prop 218 project to improve the city. And
our own zone.
I encourage you to vote in the affirmative. Thank you very much.
Beautiful analogy. Any other comments? And online, Carrie? All right. Thank you. This is also receive and file. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Item number 9 is a receive and file update on Measure C, a half-cent sales tax used to fund a portion of Fresno County's transportation system. Am I supposed to talk now?
So that was the plan.
That was the plan. Okay, I didn't know we had a plan. So the purpose of this few minutes is not a history on Measure C, but just sort of a status report of where we are at this point in this process. So this is a little bit of just a quick background on Measure C. It's been around since 1986. Renewed, put back on the ballot in 2004 and failed again in 2006 and passed. Failed in 2022, and it expires in 2027. So the question here is, what is the status at the moment after the failure at the ballot box in 2022? So I think some things have even changed since this PowerPoint was put together, and you have in the staff report, but over the last maybe 5 months, a group of 10 citizens, 5 who supported the measure and 5 who did not, gathered to see if we could even be in the room together at the same time. That was literally the objective. There was great animosity between both sides, huge conflict, disagreement. Anyway, and it was really a coalition of the willing is how I describe it. So 5 people have said, yeah, I support Measure C, I'm willing to sit down and have this conversation, and the same on the opposition side. So the list of those folks is in the document. So the 10 of us met 5 times or so between April and September. The meetings were facilitated by somebody out of Los Angeles. Everybody came to every meeting with one exception. Henry Prea missed the last 2 meetings, which is just significant in terms of what's happened since that moment. But everybody was fully engaged. At the end of the day, the group agreed that, yes, we could find a way forward, and that was really the mission. Oh, and here's some I guess some more data on this, but the consensus now is it will not be on the ballot in 24. It's too much work, still too much to do. Probably 2026, and you can see how much the city gets, projects that we've funded. But so, kind of going back on this, the group of 10 called ourselves the random group of 10. Made a presentation to the Council of Governments meeting last 2 Thursdays ago, October 26th, and presented a framework of the way we might be able to work together going forward. And that framework caused, let's just say, great consternation across people listening in. So Mr. Prea opposed the plan, thought it took away all the authority from elected officials, no say. I would strongly disagree with him, and he wasn't there to wrap it up, so that was a little bit frustrating, but that's the way it ended up. All the mayors around the table at COG, so all 15 mayors that were there, expressed, yes, keep working on this, because the only way we're going to get this passed is with people that don't agree on how to move forward on Measure C. Well, after COG offline, many of those mayors called and said, no, we don't like it. And so it was sort of a meltdown. Then the Board of Supervisors took it up. They all spoke strongly against any kind of framework that looked anything like this group of 10. So it unraveled quite quickly. And it was very, very disheartening, to say the least. So where we are today is the framework is just a framework. It's got inartful language. It's not perfect. It's not a plan. It's not a 10 Commandments, but it was just a framework to work together. So I think what will happen from here is that we're going to just take a pause, like a 90-day pause, and let everybody kind of sort it out, and then try to put together, based on this framework and the work of technical people and city managers and others, how do we move forward with Measure C? We don't want to lose the idea that we agreed to work together, but trust is fragile, so I think we have to be pretty careful about that. But that's all I would say at this point about it. I know the city managers reviewed it, technical advisory committee reviewed it, and I would just say don't think the way it was presented probably wasn't in the most favorable light. So I think the framework has room to work. It's not meant to be an actionable plan because that's not what we were charged to do. So all I say is that the group of 10 accomplished our objective to work together and to be in the same room together and we have a lot of work to go from there. So I'll just stop there. I don't know if that's enough or helpful, or happy to answer questions, but that's kind of where we are.
I took the 50 minutes to listen to the meeting,
I'm so sorry.
and I just want to say thank you, and I know, Vaughn, you had to sit in for some of these things at some point. There are good people with different positions, but at the end of the day, we're the elected officials, and I think, not that we know better, we need to take input, but there comes a point where you have people who have diverging and converging issues. I saw the difficulty, and I don't envy you having to sit there.
Oh, anyway, thanks. Other comments?
I just had a
Will you hold on 1 second? Will you hold on? When we open public comment, you can come. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
I just had a question. Just trying to understand that. If it was expiring in 27, why did it go to the voters in 22?
Same reason it went to the voters in 2004. The thought is that if you don't get it right, you have another chance, right? So if we do it in 26 and it fails, it will expire. And then you're trying to pass a new tax versus extend an existing tax. So it was a calculation, again, much like 2004 and 6, kind of repeated to 2022 and 24.
Okay.
Yeah. And 2022 is, a little bit ahead, but the sooner the money comes in, then you could have the money to bond against. And so there's advantages for the construction, but that was the thinking.
I looked at the materials that were given to COG and to you guys, and it says at the end, there's a recommendation, right? And it says that the COG and FCTA adopt this framework. And so you're saying that's not on the table. You're not asking them to adopt what's presented in here with the facilitation teams and drafting team, community forums, administrative teams. It's still...
adopt was a bad verb.
Okay.
I mean, this group had no authority to ask anybody to ask, and I was in the room when they were writing this, so, but it turned out to be a much more, and we took it back to the group, it went back to the group of 10, and so some of those words suggest more like we could ask COG to do something, and we didn't have any authority to ask COG to do anything. So it didn't exactly, I mean, I think it didn't roll out, but I would say the mayors that all said, yeah, we need to hear from our communities, this is a good way to do it, and then turned around and said, no, this isn't very good, that was not helpful, and then it just spun out of control from there. So I think there's a way to get it back, sort of taking the best of this community engagement process with the technical requirements of Measure C. Measure C is a super technical measure. It's not for the faint of heart. So I think it's just got to find some kind of merging back, if that's possible. I don't know if it's possible, but that's what's ahead.
Speaking on having to work on this executive committee last time around, I think, as a councilman for the city of Clovis, I have to put my personal beliefs aside and rely on the staff in saying that whatever the process is, hopefully they bring something forward in which you can analyze and say, yes, we can still operate transit. We can still do the projects that we plan to do with whatever that allocation percentages are. And if it isn't, I think that's also something that I would like to hear from our staff going, hey, with the way it's broken down now, we're going to have to shut transit. We're going to, these projects we'll have to put on hold. We can't do any of the bike lanes. We need to know that because we have been operating, the past, 20-something years with a certain funding stream that we have grown accustomed to. And so that way whoever sits on this committee can advocate for that on the Clovis's behalf, And so I'm also a firm believer in, I think the mayor said this earlier, in that though most of the taxes are generated in the city of Fresno and the city of Clovis, we too want to be able to share to the other cities within the county, so that way they also have good infrastructure, good roads. Because when I go to Parlier, maybe the one road that I travel through, I want that road to be good. Same as if they come here, they want our roads to be good because they're spending their tax dollars here as well. And so that's what I'll say for now. I was under the understanding that it was to adopt this, and so I did have some concerns or questions, but it's assuring to hear that you being one of the group of 10 to share that. You know, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, it's
we'll listen to it.
A work in progress is a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
We'll see. Yeah, you bet. Anyone else up here? Public? Would you like to comment on? You have to come up here. Sorry.
You know, as you're coming up, I did have one more comment, Mayor.
Yeah.
You know, I said it at COG. In the group of 10, and when I was at COG, there was, and I think, John, you gave it to us in the documents as well. The people who voted against it was our town. In other words, Supervisor District 2, Supervisor District 5. So in other words, you know, it's the conservative voice. And so for this to work, we also need to invite those groups in so that way they understand and they know what the projects are, what this tax is and what it's going to do. Because I think if we don't do that, whoever's going to be involved, if we forget that sector of the community, then I think it may fail again, because now it'll be very much more vocal than in 2022.
Well, and I think that's a good example why this isn't a plan. Of course, people need to come to the table, but in 2022, we had all those people at the table. We lost because the coalition who opposed it was better at politics than the coalition that supported it, frankly. I mean, like, to be blunt, that's how we lost it. So I think we need to, if you're in favor of Measure C, we need to figure that out. Steve Brando was on the mailers to vote no. So he was a persuasive Republican image. So we lost it politically, I think, in a large measure. So we can do better all the way around for sure going forward. Please, your name and address. Hello, regular plain citizen. We're all regular plain citizens.
Drew, because yes, you guys are all elected, but the people in that room that represent those community groups, sir, have master's degrees 1 million times over, and to insinuate that they don't know what the F they're doing in putting together a plan is asinine. So they're not in the room to defend themselves, okay? So just be careful with your words, because you are elected, so your words have weight. And they worked their asses off to get to a place where they could sit down at a table across from a man, Jerry Dyer, who made fun of them, mocked them, criticized them for standing up for their disenfranchised communities who don't have streets that we have here. It's a privilege to live here, you guys. Go hang out in Parlier and ride around, and then come back and tell me that we're the elected officials. Then do better. Be a better elected official. Go sit on the group of 10 and come back with it. That's my comment.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We worked through that. That's a group of 10, worked through those sorts of energy for a long time. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. All right, anyone else? All right, so that's Measure C. So where we are today, our recommendation to this group of 10 is just to take a moment, to take a 90-day pause. There's no urgency right this minute. If we're going to go in 26, we can kind of regroup, figure out the framework, see if we can kind of come back to the middle and figure out how to move it forward. So that's where we are, and I will keep you posted as that goes along. John, would you add anything?
No, well, yes, I guess.
No, but yeah, I do that all the time.
So I did listen to the audio, and my interpretation of the final direction that was given between Veronica and Tony and Mayor Dyer and Mayor Ashbeck was going to be that there was some recommendations for modifications to the report that was presented, and they would possibly, and it was a informational item only, but they would possibly bring it back for the November 30th meeting for action.
And that's not going to happen. I think the direction was work on it and bring it back, but there's really no need to hurry. And the faster we hurry, the more mistakes we're going to make. So now the part of this group of 10 is that hasn't been communicated to them, just was, I suppose, if somebody's listening to this. But it's a recommendation just to hold on and just pause for a moment to see if we can kind of get some equilibrium back, because it got totally, in my opinion, totally out of whack after all of the chatter, and it wasn't helpful. So with the holidays and all of that, and 2 new executive directors coming to COG and FCTA, so there, at this moment, there will be no action on the COG meeting on November 30th. Okay. Next item. Am I in charge of the next one too? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So this is an item under our new protocol that, I think this is right. So last time I asked if we could have this on the agenda, and now here it is. So I am looking for council support to pursue the development of a City of Clovis children's book. And why it's here is because I would like some staff support to kind of manage the project along. I have a lot of skills, but the details of that, it's not my best part. And then some additional funding. And we talked about this last time a little bit. The history is, they study Clovis history in 3rd grade. We started this cool Founders Day. How cool would it be to be one of the few cities in California, if not the only, that has a story about how our history came to be? And I think we all agree, if we don't teach our kids that the center of Clovis is not Service to Mall or a Starbucks or any of that, that it has meaning in history. So that's the idea. That's how it came to be. So the initial work, Chad and Carrie and Taylor, I think, helped out of communication to try to draft an idea. We had a concept to share it with Jenna Prandini as a famous resident of Clovis. So that she's interested in that. I did approach the Clovis Community Foundation, and they've agreed to fund it up to $12,500, and they require a matching request. So my request to my colleagues is, may we participate in this project? And I'm looking for allocation of $12,500 from the city managers and communication budget, and a little bit of staff help to push it along, or a lot of staff help, or I don't know, some amount of staff help. We have a lot of work to do, need some editing and all of that, but I think it's such a great, I think it would be super fun, and I think Jenna's interested in it. I will say that I'll talk about the protocol in a minute, but anyways, I'll leave that. That's my request to you all tonight. Is that what I'm supposed to say? How'd I do? Okay, good. I've never asked for anything ever in 22 years, so there you go. Is there questions for the staff? That would be me.
Okay, maybe in the book we can decide what we refer to each other as. We're Clovisians.
Clovisians.
Clovisites.
We could.
I've heard many times people, they don't know you're a Fresno. Okay, what are we from Clovis? What are we?
That's a good call.
But I think it's a great idea.
We could have a contest. Anyone else?
I think this is an excellent idea, especially with a children's book, just to be able to partner with, all the children here in Clovis. And Carrie, your excellent job with Founders Day, and how 3rd graders are coming here and actually meeting all of you in your departments. And the displays that we have done out there are amazing. And so I just, hope we can add this to it as well. So I support this, Mayor.
And the goal is to have it by the mayor's breakfast, so we have to sort of hurry. So, public comment on this item? Good. How did you describe yourself? Plain, ordinary citizen? Okay. Welcome back.
Thanks. In the 20s, in the newspapers that haven't been digitized yet, the Clovis Independent, the Expositor, the Daily Herald, right, because we've also been researching the history of Clovis and Fresno down at the Heritage Center, and oh boy, right. So questions, what's going to be in the book? Who's going to fact check it? What are we going to ignore? Is the city seal going to be on it?
Do you want answers to all those questions?
I really would. Is
Okay.
there going to be a committee? There's a lot of book girls right now downtown. This is my home library. We are mortified at what has been happening. And when we're looking, right, with fresh eyes at the books that have things like the county seal or the city seal, and there's a ton of information that is either misrepresented, missing, right? And that it's not, I don't want to say intentionally because I can't speak to that, but when the librarians are sitting there like, there's a there, right? And we're not going to not talk about it anymore. Those days are over, and in 2024, there's new rules. And if we're going to do a children's book, and it's going to be whitewashed, we're going to make fun of it on the internet, over and over and over again.
Okay.
On the mayor's breakfast, we'll be outside. So let's address it now. What are your thoughts? Like, I'm genuinely wanting to know, what are you going to do? Because there's an opportunity here to do a book that is inclusive. And I know everyone here hates that word.
No,
but
that's not true. That's not true.
Okay, I know we're not going to say that out loud, right? But our actions don't match our words.
Okay.
So miss me with it. What are we going to do?
So, okay, so maybe what we can do is you and I can chat offline, because it's an early concept. It's really about historical landmarks in Clovis.
Right.
The water
what do
tower.
those celebrate?
Huh?
What do those celebrate? I know what our historical landmarks mean.
Oh, okay.
I know about the people that they are named after. Do you guys?
Yes. I mean, some of us do. Well, I think so.
Not in an aggressive way. I'm like, I didn't.
Okay.
And I grew up here.
So those are all fair questions. So let's see if we can move this book along, and then you and I can talk about it.
I don't want to move the book along.
Okay.
None of the book girls are going to be on board with moving the book along with city money, right?
Okay.
Without these questions being addressed.
Okay. Okay. Well, so it's going to be a vote of the council. I understand. I hear you. So just if you could give us a little bit of runway to figure this out, because we have a draft story right now, and we need to work with if it's going to feature Jenna or something else.
Right.
We got into a little trouble because we don't have an idea here. Maybe Jenna could be in it.
So why are we asking for funding if we don't have an idea?
Because it costs money to develop an idea.
So then do it on your own and bring it to council once we have an idea.
Okay, I'm not a children's book author.
So get one, Lynn. Like, let's be serious about this.
Okay.
This is the history of our town. If we're going to put a book with the city of Clovis seal on it, we just did a huge thing about the importance of the letterhead, right? Right?
Yeah.
Did we not?
We did.
And we're going to do a children's book about Clovis history. So let's get it right instead of rushing it through. Think about it and bring it back.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So I hear you, and I'm happy to talk to you offline because we have thought about it, but I don't want to talk about it anymore right now.
I would love to.
Okay.
There's a group of us that have been actively discussing this.
Okay.
We have a lot of ideas.
Okay.
There's a million different things, a million different ways to make this a jumping off point to fix the tomfoolery that has happened and disgraced our libraries. Not about the children's section. Those women are geniuses, and it's insulting what has happened here. But
okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. All right. Plain ordinary citizen. Thank you for your comments, and we will turn around. Chad, can you connect with her, and we'll get your phone number and we'll chat. Because we want it to be good, but we want it to be uplifting, and we want people to be proud of where they're from, and we want to we'll be honest, we're not going to cover the Ku Klux Klan 1950. That is not going to happen. Okay, so it's 24 pages long. So we'll get it, and we'll chat, but I can't promise you that it's going to do all the things that you just described. Well, okay, so we'll talk about it offline. But thank you for your comments. Plain, ordinary citizen. Appreciate it. Yeah, you bet. You bet. All right, anybody else? Oh, stop it. Oh, gosh. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. So, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Online, anyone? All right, we'll bring it back to the council.
Mayor, I would like to defend your vision for this book, because I think if we want to write about everything, we can, but to write about the positives of what Clovis has developed, what Clovis is, that can also work for 20 pages to just share with children what is here and what has, you know, what we all have moved here for and what we enjoy, whether it's just Jenna running through our trails, which may not have a lot of history, but it just shows how great the city is. Maybe just going to Old Town and showing what a great center heart of Clovis is, or just, you know, looking at the water tower, or just how it used to be a lumber town, or maybe the trail was where the railroad used to be. And so I think it can't be political. And I think, you know, sorry, that's what I hear, that you think it's going to be political. I just want it to be factual and fun. And so that's all I want to say. I think that's your intent, and I think that is a very honorable intent for our children just to know. Because if we don't, then, you know, we lose the chance. But government is messy, and I'm sort of if putting money in is too messy, then hey, we'll fund it privately, $5,000 each from our funds, and we'll just do it. You know, it'll be, you know, something in which sorry to convince you, but you know, so that way, you know, it'll just be something so that way it'll be just something in which, you know, if we all like it, you know, we can just put it as a gift from private council members with no public funding, you know, to move this along. I don't want to see it fail without, you know, with all the back and forth about details. You know, I think you have already some solid ideas. So.
Good points. Anybody else?
I think this is a great idea. I think if you didn't live here in the 80s, you didn't know that Takahashi Farms was basically the furthest point north of the realm. It was a three-way stop. That there was a train that went through downtown. There's all these little things that my grandchildren aren't going to know about unless somebody tells them about it, so that they can have those conversations with their grandparents or with their aunts and uncles and say, do you remember this? You know, talk about Doc Buchanan and how we had a Jefferson School was across from a sheep ranch. And, you know, and now I don't know that there are any animals in Clovis other than cats and dogs and maybe a couple of backyard chickens that people aren't disclosing. But I think this is a great idea.
Chickens are looking like a better idea.
It's a great idea, and I support it.
I need a motion and a second if anybody's interested.
Motion to approve funding of the project as stated.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Can I vote? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. That is the end of the Lynn Ashbeck show. Thank goodness. Number 11, change of council meeting schedule. John Hall, you want to change the council meeting?
Yes. Staff's recommending the city council cancel the meeting of November 20th. We're able to adjust the calendar to make it work, and so we're recommending we cancel next Monday's meeting, primarily due to the holidays.
That's the day before my birthday. I think we should come and have a party for me.
We can schedule it.
Okay, great. Any questions, comments? Public comment? Motion? Online? Is there a motion to approve the change of council schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve the change of council meeting schedule.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City manager comments.
I have none.
Council comments. Matt.
Just that went to the veterans dinner on Saturday night with
Did you do the flag salute? Who did it? Did you do it?
all three of us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Vong led it, and so Vong, Drew, and I were there, and I just wanted to make the comment on, you know, being there and just the generational knowledge that was in the room and the respect that the people, the veterans showed for the flag and the things that they've done for the country, and how proud they were to be there. I mean, it was evident. And so it was really moving. It was great to be there, talk to a lot of, people that have been in Clovis for a long time and have served our country, and it was a good deal. Very nice dinner.
Thank you all for going. Diane?
I do want to start by recognizing Veterans Day, and while I wasn't able to attend that dinner, I wanted to just extend my appreciation. I know we have a lot of staff members who are veterans and members of our council, and my father is a veteran, and so I just wanted to just express how important I think it is that we do take that time to recognize and appreciate the sacrifice, not just of our veterans, but of their families as well. And so I wanted to say that. And then I also wanted to report back that I attended the Board of Supervisors meeting last Tuesday, and kind of a culmination to some of the conversations that we had in this chamber over the summer. Supervisor Steve Brandau's Parents Matter Act passed the Board of Supervisors 3-2, and I just wanted to acknowledge that I find that to be a very common sense solution to the issue at hand as far as age-appropriate materials in the children's section of our libraries. And the discussions that we had in this chamber were part of the process of reaching that resolution. And so I just am actually proud of that we had the time and took the time to have those conversations. It wasn't a waste of time, and I don't think it was harmful to our community either. And it was really my privilege, and frankly, I feel part of my responsibility to be able to take the concerns of parents and grandparents to our county board. And during that process, I was criticized on social media. I was criticized in the regular media. I was even criticized from this dais, but I was undeterred because I believe that empowering parents and protecting our children is valuable. And I really appreciated the encouragement and support that I got from the community as part of that endeavor. So I just wanted to kind of offer that kind of resolution to that situation. And thanks Supervisor Steve Brandau for bringing that forward, and the Board of Supervisors for supporting it.
Drew.
I also attended the Veterans Dinner, and that would be a very good part of that book.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, the Veterans Memorial District.
Yep.
Very small gym, and now look at it and all the things they do. I know we had a call on public comments from a gentleman asking about his parking, being able to park his big rig, and I know that I saw the staff report on it. Let us not forget that during the pandemic, we praised the people who kept the supply chain going. And we need to find some type of resolution that we can do for long-haul truckers who, I remember having this conversation when I was a police corporal with John Wright, and he just, he was playing director, and he just said, no, they shouldn't park anywhere. And I said, where are they going to park? Well, they shouldn't park okay, where are they going to park? Because you're not going to enforce it. That'll be something that'll be up to us. That'll fall on our hands. We need to find something. So I hope that if this comes up again, we come up with something. Because if you're a long-haul trucker and you come in and you're spending 24 hours at home and you got to park your rig somewhere, you're not going to want to park it in front of your house because you want to anger all your neighbors. But there's got to be a location that we can deal with it. So that's all I have.
Thanks. Vaughn?
Went to the police department promotions. I think there was one new officer, and I think, was it 5 or 4 promotions? 5 promotions. I think we have our the deputy chief. We haven't had one in 20 years. That's what Kurt said. And so congratulations to, was it Vince? Okay. So I don't know who, yeah, so several years ago. But to have a deputy chief, so congratulations to the promotions and to the new officer who came on board. So that's like 7 new officers in the last month. The 6 that I went to a couple weeks ago, and then this new one here, the promotions. Wanted to say, sometimes we forget our veterans, Drew and John, you know, and I don't know who else are veterans. You guys are all amongst us, and you know, you protected us out there, and now you come and serve, and you've done a great job. So, like I said, that we serve with heroes alongside of us, and so thank you for your service, and thank you for all that you do. And John, your letter to our staff, that was a great letter, the Veterans Day letter, yeah. And so, thank you for putting that out to our staff. I wanted to ask Mayor and John, did we get invited to the Fresno Parade, Veterans Day Parade?
Specifically, I couldn't tell you exactly, but we can just make sure you do know from going forward.
Yeah, because some years we are, some years, but I don't know.
But I can tell you, if we do get an invitation, you will have received it.
Yeah, and so I just don't know why we're not invited.
We also didn't get invited to the Red Ribbon Week parade in Clovis Unified. Supervisor Maggs got invited, but we didn't get invited.
Oh.
I didn't get invited, did you?
We didn't get invited.
I didn't get invited.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, it doesn't count if you just show up uninvited. You're like that, I know. Anyway, there's probably a few things like that.
Yeah, but I was just that being the largest parade on the West Coast here, you know, I think our mayor at least should be invited.
Sure.
So I just wanted. And then went to the ribbon cutting for Fresno Ag Hardware. I think we were excited. You know, I think Drew, Matt, and I were there. They fed us cinnamon rolls and popcorn.
They did not.
Oh yeah, fair cinnamon rolls. Yeah. But I think it's just great to have, you know, that 1867 or something like that they've been in business, and now they're in Clovis, and that just to have their name here, and so excellent and exciting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I was sick last week, so I didn't do any of those things, but mostly, I'm sorry I missed the Veterans Dinner, and now I missed the cinnamon rolls, too. So that was, I'm sorry about that. The only thing I want to raise, two things. Well, one is, I'm becoming increasingly agitated, I know that worries you, on the state of our commercial properties. And I keep sending pictures to Andy. And I don't know how to get a handle on it, but we spend so much time on, you know, we want our neighbors to take care of our lawns, and you talked about it a little bit, Vaughn, but some of our commercial properties are just, they've gone off the rails. And I know an example that Andy shared with me, that a center has 8 or 9 owners, and the building that's mostly the worst violator, the owner lives in Texas and basically says, I don't care what you do. So we need to make them care. Either we find some way to, I don't know, put liens, or I'm not sure exactly, but it's just super frustrating me. And the more, when you start to look for it, and it's primarily along Shaw, and Shaw does not deserve that, and those neighborhoods on each side of Shaw don't deserve that. So I don't know how to sort of ramp up the commercial property. You should care about it too, even though you live in Texas. Like, you should care about what you own. And I brought an article from, I think it's the New York Times, from Detroit, and he has an idea to tax land higher that is vacant and blighted as a way to kind of reverse, like, okay, I'll lower your taxes if you build something on it and take care of it. So I'm not saying that's the answer, but we're not the only city struggling with this. But anyway, I would love some thinking about it, not today, but in the next couple of months, on commercial property. How do we engage the owners or send them a bill for us taking care of it? Because it's just out of control in some spots. So anyway. Now, wait, can I ask you to do that, or now do I have to ask my colleagues if I can ask you to do that?
Well, I think that
I'm just saying, if it takes you more than 3 hours, I got to ask my colleagues to ask you if I can ask you. I want to be good on the rules. I'm a rule follower. All right. Are we good? Okay. Yeah? So, anyway.
We'll take a look at it and report back. It's an ongoing problem. It is, we don't have the staff adequate to deal with a lot of these. We're going to do what we can, but it's not on the top of the priority list. And I hate to be honest with you, but it's not on the top of the priority list.
Well, I mean, I appreciate a look at it. The example that I shared with John was somebody told me that they'd been trying to lease the old Orchard Supply building on Shaw, and no luck. And the building, I don't even know what this means. The tenancy is owned by Lowe's Hardware. So Lowe's, of course, is not interested in really anything, and this use was about 180 degrees from Lowe's Hardware, and they're just not interested. And the property owner says, why do I care? Because I'm getting a check from Lowe's every month for an empty building. So the building is totally blighted, all the wiring inside, the loading dock behind. So it's just, okay, but the city is the one that pays the price for that. So we need to share in that, they need to share in that price too, because it's so unacceptable. So anyway, and then I also want to report out to the public, we did hold a closed session today at 4 o'clock before this meeting, so that we wouldn't be having a conversation about an issue that you all care about, specifically on affordable housing, at 10 o'clock at night. So we did hope, that was posted outside, so we had our closed session from 4 to 10 minutes to 6 to discuss the ongoing action as it was posted on the closed session agenda. So just so you know, that happened in advance of this meeting tonight as opposed to right now. So FYI on that. So with that, I think that concludes our meeting of November 13th, and we will adjourn the meeting. And I have birthday cake back there.